A lot of fans have been asking, are you still going to have podcasts while you're on tour? Well, I'm on tour right now, and here's your podcast. Yes, we are going to have podcasts all summer long. Go to mcchris.com/pages/shows for tickets and information, or just go to mcchris.com and click on the tour poster. There's an option to street team as well. In 2005, I quit Cartoon Network and started touring. It's 20 years later. I'm still at it. Come celebrate with me because I'm probably coming to your town. If I haven't already been there, maybe I'm there right now. Who knows when this takes place in the span of time and space? Go find out at mcchris.com/pages/shows or click on the tour poster at mcchris.com. I already said that. Bring your friends. Make it a party. Invest in actual experiences. They're way better than doom scrolling. Memories last forever, especially if I've traumatized you. Okay, let's do the podcast. I don't think old people should be allowed to have sex. I'm sure I'll feel differently when I get there.
I mean, I say they should have more. Nothing works anymore. I mean, as far as you're not going to have get anybody pregnant. An 80-year-old couple having sex is not going to get each other pregnant. Those senior communities in Florida where everybody has chlamydia and stuff because they're all just banging each other.
Oh, God.
I think they should be allowed to have all the sex they want. It'll keep them from bothering their children.
Is dead, and she has a boyfriend.
How do you feel about that?
Well, weird because she won't talk about it. My family's just very private.
Yeah.
None of them have social media accounts.
Well, they're no offense, but we're barely the first age group of people to have though. Everyone above us, I feel is the most they have is they go on Facebook.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like if you're not doing anything at all, that there's something.
But I mean, you know what's going on in your family's lives.
Yeah.
And they don't have any of it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I mean, just barely though. I mean, every time I talk to my mom, it's always well, this person works here, this person works here, this person works here, and this person got fired from here, and this person works here, and they've moved over here, and now they're doing this, and it's just it's like a job update. It's not about how anyone's doing emotionally. And then all of a sudden it'll be oh, and he's got cancer.
Yeah, there's always one of those.
And it's just you never really get to know what's going on and there's no get-togethers.
I get annoyed because my mother loves to tell me what my friends are up to because I don't have Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, well, I see Leon is in the Caribbean this weekend. I'm like, he went last weekend, and why would you know that? I was just seeing his updates.
My mom's like, do you work for Disney? And I'm like, no. But I just recently made a post where I went to the Thunderbolts fan event at El Capitan, and my caption was, I just go where Disney tells me.
Oh,
and so she thinks, so she's like, do you work for Disney? I'm like,
Yes, Mom. Yes, I work for Disney.
Yeah, I got my dream job.
Yeah. I wish my parents were not on Facebook.
Well, it's really, that's the funny thing about MC Chris is that's where I'm big. I have my big audience there I have 177,000 followers on Facebook. So I'm really popular where your aunt is hanging out.
Yes.
That's where I'm a hit. And then if I post something to my fans and I say, hey guys, come watch this video I'm doing on TikTok, or come watch this TikTok video I just did. Or they'll be like, I will never, ever go to TikTok. Oh. Or yesterday I posted Rob Thomas on May the 4th. He posted a link to my song. He's from Matchbox 20, I think is the name of his band. Posted a link to my song. I announced to everybody, and someone's like, you're still on X?
Oh.
And it's like, buddy, wow. I'm a small business owner. If I don't,
you got to be on everything.
If I'm not on everything, telling everybody everything that I'm doing at all times, then I'm dead in the water.
That's like being a restaurant and only accepting orders from DoorDash, but not Instacart or Chowhound or Uber Eats. You got to take all of them.
Yeah.
You got to get all the.
Like I don't have a choice. And like, what are you doing? Just being on Facebook? It's like, do you know how uncool you sound? Being like, I will only be on Facebook. I'm like, you sound like an ant. You sound like a crazy right-wing uncle or something.
I mean, they're almost right in that they're down to one, but
it's all bad.
I think
nothing's better than the other.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're close to good.
I think the big problem these days is we're finding out about who runs the companies, which is something that we never really had. All we knew about was like Lee Iacocca back in the day. Like there was no. Now you know you got Mark Zuckerberg, you got Elon Musk, you got all these people. You're finding out who they are. You're like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that company anymore. It's like we never felt this way before, and who knows like how racist the owner of Toyota is. I love my car. You know,
they all are. I mean, everybody.
I mean, these people aren't good people.
No, I mean the guy who owned and founded IKEA was, although admirable in some ways, because he was also one of the world's richest men. Like, but still, like, no joke, still drove till the day I think he died in the last couple of years, but
car accident.
Still drove his like 1987 Volvo station wagon. Like, never got a new car.
Yeah, I like that about Warren Buffett. He never spent his money.
And like, is it also like every day he has an Egg McMuffin that he gets himself from the drive-thru in McDonald's?
Yeah.
The thing they're not telling you is there's 4 tanks surrounding his car as he drives through. Because
like,
if someone...
You're talking to him, taking the order, there's like 5 red dots glowing on your face from snipers.
Yeah. Or like, they just in a warehouse built a fake McDonald's that he drives through and has no clue. He's like in the Truman Show. He thinks he's just walking around in a real place. I just saw yesterday
Jeff Bezos bought an island in the Pacific or South Pacific or something, and he's building a city on it just for him to walk around in.
I mean... Listen, we've had this conversation lightly before. However, if you had a crazy amount of money, now let me say some things here first. Let's assume a lot of it is going towards every philanthropic thing you could ever do for everything your person. So it's not like if you spend any money on yourself, you're not contributing and giving to the world. Let's just say all that stuff's already happened. You're giving it
and that's why people do charity, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not because they're charitable good people. They're just like, well, I have to do this fucking shit.
Yeah. But like all that's being taken care of.
Right.
So like your answer can't be, well, I'd give it all to charity. You did.
Yeah.
But there's still all this other amount.
Yeah.
There's Jeff Bezos bullshit amount of money. You can have your own you could build your own
Man, when
NASA.
I walk around, all I want is a little house. Because I walk around in my neighborhood and like I see these tiny little houses. It's like I think it's called like Connecticut style, like white, black shutters. I don't really need anything. I just need this little white house.
But you said before.
Maybe a pool in the back.
But you said before, got too many books. How you going to fit all your books? Especially when you got Bezos money. You're buying books every day.
Okay, well, it looks...
Where do you put them?
I like these houses that look tiny from the front.
You want an underground bunker.
Yeah.
You want a little...
No, maybe it's slightly large. But the thing about like the giant house, a giant house to me, I don't know how big your house is, but it's just like, it's got to be a nightmare. You got to run it like a business. You got to have a staff. You got to pay them. You got to... It's just like so...
Wouldn't you love that though? I
wouldn't love it because I'm in such a small family. We wouldn't be able to find each other.
No, but listen, think about this. You get up in the morning, breakfast is ready.
I would love to have a chef.
It's not just breakfast. It's a healthy, tasty breakfast.
Yeah.
And then...
If they can make an omelet.
Some other guy...
Without burning the eggs.
Yeah. Bruno comes by and takes your hand and takes you into the gym and runs you through your workout.
I love Bruno.
And he's so nice. He's like, great job again, Chris. You're really nailing it. I
don't think you look fat.
Yeah. You look so skinny to me. I'm so jealous. And then that's done. And then you go do whatever you want. You go into your fully made music studio where your engineer is sitting there. He's over there ready to work. You do whatever you want to do in there. Somebody in the Batmobile picks Tony up from school, drives him home. It's like, man, why is
Get
it
it, Tony. Get it. Your dad said we're stopping by we need to pick some cards up. We have to pick up his prescription at CVS. His atorvastatin prescription needs picking up. I've got a good RX coupon.
through the drive-through? That little windows.
Just put it in the box.
Yeah. You wouldn't want that? You wouldn't have to think about that stuff.
I mean, that's the funny thing about living in Hollywood. You're seeing a variety of different economic situations.
Yes. L.A.
Everything from tents to
squillionaires
that like live in $80 million homes.
I mean, there's not lots of places. I think Hong Kong is like this. I think some of those, like Shanghai is like this. LA is like that. You see, if you took just a average picture of a street, 50% of the cars, minimum, are $100,000 plus cars everywhere. And that is not most places.
Yeah.
LA is one of the most segregated cities in America. It still is. And yeah, the disparity between, it's also like, what does it have? It doesn't have like more squillionaires per capita other than like
I look at these
Francisco.
giant hedges and I think to myself, it's like, I guess I get the hedges because I'm like, why would you hide your house? Don't you want to show people your? I mean, I grew up in this suburb of Chicago where everyone was like doing their own landscaping and it was a source of pride for them.
Yeah.
Or their house upkeep was like, you'd bust your ass. I don't know how guys work all week and then go outside and bust their ass all weekend on their house.
Because they get into their house Friday night and the wife's like, I got some stuff planned for the weekend. I called my sister. You're like, you know what? I got to do the lawn on Saturday. And then we're going to go and Sunday. I got other shit I got to do outside on Sunday. So I'm going to be outside away from you all weekend to avoid their families.
Yeah. I see the giant hedges. I'm thinking like, I get it. I realized this early on when I lived in LA. It's like, this is a town of make-believe. People can do whatever architectural style they want. They can go for Spanish Mission. They can go New England, Connecticut style. They can go Minecraft box house, which is popping up in my neighborhood. Like when they build a new house, it's like a Minecraft box house that's totally ugly and it's being built by somebody from another country. But you can do whatever you want. You can make whatever world you want because you never want to step outside of your property.
Yeah.
You don't, and you're not part of a neighborhood. You are in your property.
Yeah.
And it's like you can make it anything you want, and you have your huge hedges so you don't see anything else. Or maybe you see the city if you're really rich.
You'll also see crazy people walking around here who look like they are the drummer for Guns N' Roses. And then you'd be like, oh, that guy must be like, no, I'm an esthetician. I live in Sherman Oaks. Like, they present themselves also. There's like different crazy styles that are more acceptable here to dress and act like that you would never do outside of this place.
Yeah, it really is like a town of make-believe.
Mm-hmm.
You can pretend you live anywhere. You can be anyone you want. If you don't have the giant lips you want, you can get those. They just hand those out when you step
don't like
off
those
the plane.
lips? Try these on. Thank you very much.
There's a guy with a mallet at the airport.
Yeah.
Just the croquet mallet just smacks you in the face.
Uh-huh. Eric Bowser's there doing his Bugs Bunny voice right before they do it. You ready for this one, Doc? You gotta get some fat fucking lips.
Oh, Eric Bowser. But you know what's a real deterrent from, any of this is that the tiniest houses cost $1 million.
Yeah.
I look at people's houses, I covet what they have, but I'm like, I think they have as much space as I do in my apartment.
How many square footage your house?
I don't know. 2,000? I don't know.
Whoa, that's big.
1,500 then?
Is it a
It's
multi-bedroom?
Two bedroom. And because it's like they live in tiny houses. Because it's not like it's like it's millionaire light, I guess is what you'd call it, because people who are up in the hills. I mean, there's one house that's for sale right now on my street, 3.5.
Good God.
And it just looks like a normal house.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's normal. It's all normal stuff, but on its side, because there's so many
how
people.
long it's long.
It's so many people. It's all skewed and messed up. Even when you look, I mean, houses. When we bought our houses, they were hundreds of thousands in my neighborhood. Were hundreds of thousands of dollars. But now, every house that's sold in my neighborhood, these are all like 1,500 square foot houses. Some of them are maybe 1,800 square foot of the originals. They're all from the 50s.
Yeah.
They're all, every one of them that's been selling is sold over $1 million.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about moving because we were maybe going to have to move for school. I said, I can't go through the stress of moving unless we're going to move to some I can't do a lateral move.
I'm curious.
It's gotta be bigger.
Curious about what's going on. And we talked about Atlanta, but what's happening in Chicago or what's happening in Atlanta? I know I can never go home to New York because that's got to be crazy.
Although, you know what's interesting? Every once in a while, I look up places in New York.
How's that?
Well, once you have the skew of being here, it's not.
I know. Cost of living will go down. I mean,
but I'm looking at house
you can't
prices.
get a burrito for under $25 here for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
I mean, but like the places, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this is like $1 million here as opposed to $1 million there.
Yeah. Of course, you moved to Kentucky.
Well, or Texas, you get some 17-bedroom with a bowling alley and the shooting range in the bottom basement.
Like you want me to throw in a helicopter?
Yes, I'll give you the pad. Yeah,
it's crazy, and I can't move though.
Now here's my question, because I wrestle with this. Why couldn't you move? What are you doing here that you couldn't do anywhere else?
There's no reason for me to be here.
Right, but why do you say you can't move?
Because I am an employee at my son Incorporated. Like he is my boss.
Yes, but he said we're not
bossing me around all day, and he's telling me what to do at all times.
I know.
My whole day is dedicated to him.
No, I get that.
When I say, because our dream is to have a house and a pool.
Yeah.
And I say, yeah, let's do it. Let's move, though. No, not allowed.
And what is his thinking behind not wanting to move?
Friends.
New friends.
Well, he doesn't know that he can make new friends.
Right. And also, probably also realizing that as soon as middle school happens, all those friends you have, unless they're friends in your neighborhood, they're all going to be gone.
Yeah. I mean, there'd be a good time to rip off the Band-Aid coming up, but there's a part of me that, I still have a fantasy about making something. And this is where...
What do you mean by making something?
Making a show.
Oh, but you can still do that.
I know. But I'm more adjacent to...
Yeah, I mean, it'd be easier to be here and
you hear
hey, they'll take your meeting tomorrow.
It'd also be really easy to move to the middle of nowhere and then become a part of the middle of nowhere and feel less driven and decide, oh, you know what? I do just want to make wood carvings of squirrels.
That's what I want. I want to live in the Pacific Northwest, or I want to live back east in Vermont.
Yeah.
I want to live back there.
No, I see. I mean,
have a big workshop in the back of a nice house. Now, this is not Jeff Bezos money, but this is probably whatever money. Maybe I could do that in Vermont. We could sell our house here, and I could get sort of what I want.
I mean, that's the hard thing about fantasizing about moving someplace else is you look into it a little bit, and then you're like, oh, they've been trying out this new free Narcan program in Portland, and now everybody's wasted and asleep. We see it. People are on fentanyl in LA, and they're all just kind of leaning over and passed out. And you're like, oh, I think I'll move someplace else because I think I'm scared to live very far away from a city. I think I have to live I have to live close to the action in some way.
Here's my requirements.
I want it to be quiet, but I also want to be close to the action.
My requirements are I got to be able to get reliable Wi-Fi. Internet.
That's everywhere.
Well,
if you move to the Smoky Blue Mountains.
Yeah. Reliable Wi-Fi.
Whatever they're called.
I want to be, I have to be within an hour from a major airport. Those two things eliminate 70% of the country.
When I'm on tour, we'll go to some, like what you'd call a mini mall. Kind of like what we have in Burbank, where Walmart is and Target is and all that whole like series of shops. It's like a huge complex. You go see that in like the middle of Tennessee or something at some rich suburb, and you'd be like, this is so nice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I've always felt like New York and LA are actually really shitty places because I've seen what the nicest parts of America are like.
Well, it's like minus the traffic, but the third thing also is as long as Amazon will deliver there.
Yeah.
Because I know it doesn't matter what stores are. If I can get anything, you can get anything on the internet now.
Yeah.
So it used to be like, man, you want to be in New York because whether you're looking for a particular kind of ribbon or some electronics up, you could find it in New York.
Yeah.
But now it doesn't fucking matter because you get anything delivered.
Yeah. But there are these really nice places all over the country that are much better than LA, much better than New York.
The stuff in Buckhead, that mall in Buckhead in Atlanta and all that stuff.
I think the traffic, I mean, if you move to the middle of nowhere, you could feel like you're the only person on earth. But if you go to where there are stores and where things are nice and things are established and things are new, most importantly, then there's going to be like tons of traffic. It's going to feel like, because every suburb has turned into a city.
Yeah. Well, the traffic in Atlanta is terrible.
Yeah.
The roads are terrible. Like the design and planning of them, they clearly were not designed or planned. No, they're overtaxed.
I had this stick shift car, and I would ride it around Atlanta I always thought it was like I was on a skateboard. Because I would use the inertia of the hills to get me up and down and around the place, and I wouldn't be using a lot of gas. I just used the topography of the land. Atlanta, I was always stuck in traffic, but I remember I had the little iPod, and I'd be listening to Ludacris and driving home, trying to get back to Little 5 Points to go drink with my friends.
Just all that stuff seems.
I was so happy.
There was some studio over by that mall. I was like, there's like 1 million people on this road, and it's a 2-lane road.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a major road.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems, I mean, there's no way to fix it.
One thing that's really infuriating is if you look at another country, let's say like China or something, and you look at their subways, or just there are places on Earth that are advanced and clean. Mm-hmm. And you're like, why can't we have that?
Yeah. Because nobody wants to use it.
I don't know.
Imagine.
I don't know if that's true. I just feel like people hate taxes. People hate government things, you know?
LA is a great example of the metro. How many people use the metro? Nobody. If everybody used the metro, it would go everywhere.
Well, this is a car culture, and Atlanta's the same way. There's a car culture.
That's all of them. That's all of everywhere here. And it's a car culture because people don't want to share space. They want to drive themselves with their own little shit. That's
I miss the train. I used to read Game of Thrones on the train.
If everybody took the train would be great. There'd still be weird shit.
Even these places just seem clean and just seem
because everybody uses them.
Futuristic and nice, and
it's funded,
not even just the subways, but just like walking around the city.
Yeah, it's funded by everybody using it.
England. One thing I noticed about London is there's no trash cans. You have to throw something away. There's no trash cans anywhere. I was like, what the fuck is this? But it's so brilliant because there's no trash anywhere either. Because people just have to come up with a solution for their trash. In LA, literally, it's like it looks like a homeless person thought that the trash can was trying to kill him during the middle of the night, and the trash can has been like smashed. And the trash is everywhere, and all the trash cans in LA are like bolted to the cement, and you could see somebody was trying to pull the trash can off of
To be fair,
the bolt.
because they did think it was trying to kill them.
Yeah. But I mean, were there no trash cans? Because it's like, I mean, I live in a really nice part of LA. It's still a dump.
Yeah. I mean, that's like Tokyo. There's no trash. You rarely see a trash can, but people don't eat and walk at the same time there. Like, you don't go get if they went to the hot dog stand and got a hot dog, they'll stand at the stand and eat it.
Yeah.
Give the one napkin, put it in the hot dog stand's garbage can, and then they go on their way.
I feel like we're just kind of like Neanderthals over here.
Well,
we don't want to make things nice. We hate, state sponsored or government sponsored things.
Everybody, it's also, you're talking about places like China and Russia, which has a beautiful subway system.
But they're
not
allowed to like.
Well, no, I'm not going to say
people.
that, but people who enjoy, even Japan, people who enjoy being a monoculture. We have this independent spirit that has been built into us since Plymouth Rock. That's why I want to be in my car, listen to my music. We don't have a collective conscience like some of those places do. Like, well, you go to work, you take the subway to work because that's how it functions, and we all get on and we all share space, and it doesn't matter. This is like everybody's got to be their own guy, and we don't have school uniforms a lot of places. Like, but even when we do, it's like, well, I wear my tie a little loose. I'm a little more individualist. I got the, we buck against that system, which is also part of it. Like, we don't have similar civic pride in our places because, well, those guys fucked it up over there, so I'm just gonna avoid that whole thing by taking my car to work and clogging the roads and everything else. That's the other problem. We're not as together as we should be.
It was so much easier for me as MC Chris when I lived in New York. Just get on the train, because I would go from Williamsburg to the Upper West Side to go record.
Ooh.
But I loved it. I loved walking the Williamsburg Bridge into the city, and it was so easy to travel, to get places.
Walking around New York.
Yeah, and I would walk every day.
York.
It's like these days I'm like, oh, I gotta somehow get 10,000 steps. I gotta somehow get 10,000 steps. You walked so much in New York. You got those 10,000 steps, whether you liked it or not.
I was giddy when I was in New York last time because my train got into Grand Central, and I had to go to Union Square. And even though I had my luggage, it wasn't a lot. I was like, I'm going to get to do that old Park Avenue walk all the way down. And then I just kept walking around everywhere.
They put me up in a hotel across from Penn Station while I was at NYU. They turned it in. They ran out of dorm space.
Whoa!
So they put us in the Southgate Hotel. It was called. I called it the Fishbait Motel. I'd never been more like suicidal in my life. I lived with this kid who
took 5 showers a day.
No, different. I had so many. I had a different roommate situation every semester, and this guy was the head of the debate team. Played Dungeons and Dragons. He only had 5 records. It was all Duran Duran. He just would play Donkey Kong Country. I mean, he actually sounded like an MC Chris fan
Except MC Chris doesn't exist then.
It didn't exist yet, but he was like a super duper nerd. But he was like, I don't have time for friends, And it was one of those situations where I lived with someone and we did not talk.
Yeah, I had a situation like that with my freshman year. I mean, we were friendly because also bear in mind where I went to school, freshman year we had 31 people in my class, and every class we had was with those 31 people.
Right.
We were broken into 2 groups.
I don't know how you wouldn't be friends with everybody.
Well, it wasn't that we weren't friends. It was just like we had different, we were all friendly with each other, but it's just like he and I were not,
He didn't have a sense of humor, obviously.
He was kind of a serious guy. I think he was a California guy too.
Yeah.
And I think possibly he has shuffled off this mortal coil at this point.
Yeah.
Because I saw him, it was interesting. I was in New York directing a show. I was directing a show in New York, so we had the auditions. And this guy came in, and it was him. Because I had his resume, but I was in the back, and he went through it. And he did not so at the end of our sophomore years, we had cuts. So we went from 31 to 11 students.
Yeah.
And the rest were just like, well, you'll find somewhere else to go, I guess. But he got cut. And I was like, that is my old high school, my freshman roommate in college. And he just came in and did his thing and left. He didn't get in the show, but then a couple months later, I went with my friend Brooks to this bar by his neighborhood. We went there for dinner, and there was like a little tiny bar in the front, but they also had some type of cabaret or karaoke type situation. And he was in there drinking and knew everybody or knew the bartender and everything, and got up and sang, and he was kind of a scary singer. Wasn't, but he did it. And I was like, man, just not a great singer. And then I think he drank himself to death.
Yeah.
Just from, I guess, just hanging out in New York, being a barfly, going from karaoke to karaoke, which also has got to be expensive because you're at some bar spending, even then was probably $12 to $14 for like a martini.
Did he drink in college?
Here's the thing. When we first got to college, nobody did because we were all 18. So like it was only...
I was in NYU where, I sat down for at an Italian restaurant, like my first day in NYU, and they offered me red wine, and I was like, and I had kind of started drinking red wine on the sly.
Mm-hmm.
They offered me red wine, and I was like, excuse me, what? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do want that. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I don't know if he tried. Like, if he did, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But also, like, by the time he got cut, he was probably still only 19.
Yeah.
So, like, it was,
it's so hard when you
we were in the dorm.
when you come crashing down from that teenage fantasy of how the world works. And, like, at some point it ends, and it's like the harsh reality just comes crashing down on you.
Yeah.
And it's quite an eye-opener. And
Yeah.
either you're, like, ready, and that's why all these young kids are so wasted, is because it's, like, such a difficult shift.
Yeah.
Lazo was smart to skip college and go right into the mailroom.
Uh-huh. A wise move.
Yeah.
That's why he's in his luxury house in North Carolina
Scottish
on the golf
castle.
course. Yeah.
But I remember before I started school at the Art Institute of Chicago, which is where I started at first, before I transferred to NYU, I spoke with my roommate on the phone before we moved in with each other. He was from Rome, Georgia.
Oh, sure.
We talked for over an hour. It was such a great conversation. We were so excited about the future, so excited about living together and being roommates. And then I met him, and he was so kind of cringy and awkward, and he was like, the ladies. I remember him saying that because he'd never been to a city before, and he was like, there's hot chicks everywhere. I'm going to fuck everybody. He's just like running around the city.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's like grabbing everybody's boobs.
Right.
And
hey, what do these do? Oh,
but
boy.
I was immediately like, uh-oh. And then I realized, like, oh, this guy's fucking lame. And we just never talked again. Another roommate that never talked. I had another roommate that replaced him because I was like, I think I want to switch it up and find a new roommate. Then a roommate moved in from Philadelphia. He didn't talk to me either. He'd always wake up with a boner, and we all wake up with boners.
Whoops.
But he'd wake up with a boner, and then he'd come. We lived in these bunk beds where our desks were on the bottom and our bunks were on the top.
Oh, yeah.
He'd crawl down from the bunk bed, but he'd have his blanket over his boner, to hide his boner as he went to the bathroom to go pee in the morning.
Maybe because you were staring at him when he woke up in the morning.
Well, I'm not.
I have eyes. I see the tent.
He brought his whole, it's like he just held the corner of the blanket over his boner, and the whole blanket would follow him like a train of a dress.
I mean, which also is disgusting because then I think you're dragging this blanket into the bathroom, which has pee on the floor, no matter how hard you try to not
No matter who you say you are, there's pee everywhere.
Yeah, pee all over that place.
Yeah. Hey, it's MC. If you want to support the podcast, which is a really awesome thing to do because it does cost money to make this, go to mcchris.com and click on the podcast banner. It'll take you right to our link tree, which will take you to our GoFundMe, all of our links, everything you need. Go there. Please make a donation. Every donation is so appreciated. Every week I get a couple of donations. I get the emails on my phone. It cheers me up. It makes me feel I'm not alone out here in the dark. So thank you so much to everybody who's donated. We've raised like $1,500 so far, which is great. There's probably going to be a Patreon in the fall. Stay tuned for that. And we really appreciate every donation. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, click the bell so you get notifications. Follow us wherever you can on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just so you never miss a show. Never want you to miss a show. You never know when it's going to come on. Sometimes it doesn't come on at all. So make sure you got those notifications turned on so you get alerted to the fact that Dana and I have sat down again and are about to give you all the wisdom. And don't forget to leave a review. You can leave a review in the comments, whether it's at YouTube. You can leave a review at Spotify. You can leave a review at Apple Podcasts. These reviews are so important to me. I read these reviews every week. They really encourage me. So if you want to encourage me, and I know you do, please leave a review. Sometimes I take pictures of them and I share them with Dana. Sometimes we read them on the show. We'll say your crazy internet name. Please leave a review. That's like the most important thing. And don't forget to like it if it's on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to follow. And don't forget to click the bell. And also leave a donation. Please support us if you can. Your support means everything to us. Okay, let's get back to the podcast. I had a bully at art school.
What are you painting watercolors? What a nerd! This guy's doing watercolors. What are you in pottery? Ceramics rules, bitch. Oh, God. The art school bullies.
I became friends with Amantha Walden.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who is that?
That's,
Worked at Adult Swim.
yeah, his wife. Got his name Nick?
I don't remember.
I know Nick in Katanawat was a guy, but not him. Weidenfeld.
Weidenfeld. Oh.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
this girl is I fell in love like all the time. The first girl I fell in love with at art school, she was Jewish. I'd never seen a Jewish person before. I thought she was amazing. And but she wasn't into me, but she was like my best friend. I always was in love with my best friend. And so I had to like shift to somebody new. And Amantha came in mid semester
At NYU?
at Art Institute of Chicago. And Amantha Walden's father, who actually was this really like amazing guy who was like the manager or agent of Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
Otis Redding?
Otis Redding and the Allman Brothers Band.
Okay.
And he was just like, he was this big time movie or music agent. And Amantha studied photography and she came to live on my floor in my
Was
dorm.
she from L.A.?
She's from Georgia.
Oh.
And we got super tight. We were like best friends. We were leaving notes on each other's doors every day.
Mm.
Super, super tight. I was in love with her. I was crazy about her. But she, everybody thought I was gay, or everybody thought like there was some sort of wall in between me and every girl in the world.
Because you were looking at the guy's boner every morning. He stares at my boner every. I have to drag the black.
You don't want to
in.
hook up with that guy. He looks at boners.
Trust me.
He's a boner enthusiast. But Amantha would crawl into my bed in the middle of the night after she'd been clubbing, and she'd like be rubbing her lips against mine, and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go for it," and then she'd be like, "Whoa. What are you doing?"
Yeah, wait a minute. That's not fair at all, Amantha.
No, it was not nice.
That's
Well,
your bully you're describing,
I think
right?
they thought I was... No, the bully was the guy who saw us together so much, and he liked Amantha. So he couldn't handle me and Amantha being friends. So one day I was painting in the studio, and of course I have a bowl of popcorn that I'm eating while I paint.
While you're painting, yes.
Because nobody's ever done that before, and that's who I am. He takes my bowl of popcorn, throws it down the dorm hallway. It shatters into a million pieces. Popcorn's everywhere. And when I go to his door, I'm like, did you do this? Because somebody told me he did it.
Wait a minute. Where were you and where was the popcorn?
I must have stepped out of the room or something. He took
the studio.
Yeah, it must have stepped out of the studio. I don't know where it was.
you
Maybe
had
in the kitchen, maybe in the bathroom.
Your easel and your popcorn.
Yeah.
And you were like, I got to drop a deuce.
Yeah.
Be right back, everybody.
Yeah.
You come back. The bowl is now
I got to see if
shattered.
my roommate's got a boner or not.
Right. I got to go check. I got to
do a quick boner check.
Tent check. You come back now. The popcorn bowl is shattered. Popcorn's everywhere.
Yeah.
And somebody else in the corner, Steve, is like, Rufus did it.
And the funny thing is, he looked like Nick.
Oh.
Is his name Nick?
Yeah, Nick and Katanawat.
No.
Oh, no, Nick Weidenfeld.
Yeah.
So
he had
brothers.
He had long hair, and he was from
Nick and Daniel.
He was from Connecticut, and he was a Richie, and he had long hair. And I knocked on his door. I'm like, "Did you break my popcorn bowl?" I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then he turned around and he called me a faggot as the door closed. And I was really confused. And I'm like, because I had been picked on my whole life. And I was like, okay, is this just a continuation of the harassment I've received my whole life? Or is something else going on? And something else was going on. He was just mad that I was with Amantha all the time. And then Amantha and I were so close. And I reported the RA and you know, and they were gonna punish him. And I said, I told him that I would, if he posed for a picture, because I was an artist, so I was like, I could turn this into art somehow. I don't know. And
so if you told him if he could pose for a picture,
I would not press charges or whatever. I would not press like dorm
popcorn bowl charges.
Yeah, dorm charges.
So wait a minute.
Is.
What else was he doing? I mean, this just sounds like. This doesn't sound like bullying. This sounds like a one-off.
It was a one-off thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he just disliked me. And
this guy had a beef with you.
He was jealous. He was jealous of me because I was with this cute girl all the time.
Yeah, bullying is, ongoing, every day, stealing your lunch, tripping you.
I'm sure there were other offenses, and this probably just was the apex. I can't think of what they were.
That's probably that's a beef. This guy's got a beef.
Just jealous, as I've experienced often in my life, because I've always been kind of lucky. And so we're going to pose for the picture, but then Amantha loved this idea that he was going to pose for a picture because she thought it was like...
Did she like this guy? Were they friends, I mean?
No. But of course, after the fact...
He married her, and that was Nick Weidenfeld.
No, but they made out. And I was like, how could you... Amantha, how could you do this to me?
Did you do a picture of him like sucking his own asshole or something, or like?
No, I didn't do it. I didn't end up having him sit for a.
But you took a picture of him.
No, I didn't take a picture of him. I didn't have him sit for a portrait. I think I was just like trying to toy with him psychologically, and
So he got no repercussions.
No repercussions. Got what he wanted. Got to make out with the girl that I was friends with and that I liked.
Yeah.
And then I see then many years later, I'm in Atlanta working for Cartoon Network, and I'm with another girl who I'm in love with and her boyfriend. I'm like a third wheel on a date to the movies. And I see Amantha and I pass by each other at the movies, and we like give each other this big hug. We're so happy to see each other, and she's like repping bands like Jucifer and stuff, and we go see Jucifer at some bar in Atlanta. And then Nick comes and works at Adult Swim. He's like, I know somebody that you know. And I'm like, who's that? He's like, Amantha Walden. And I was like, oh yeah, we know each other. And Nick's like, the only thing Nick would talk to me about was like, can you get me weed? Because he was new in town.
Right.
And but yeah,
something he needed.
Amantha and Nick end up getting married and having kids. Nick Wiedenfeld, to their listeners, he's the guy who like changed Adult Swim from like the Hanna-Barbera rotoscoping look to the weird bad drawings, weird kitschy.
He worked for a zine.
Yeah.
He was interviewing Mike Lazo.
Yeah.
And then he came out of the I mean, this is the story. Who knows what the... But
no, I was there that day.
He came out of the meeting with Mike Lazo and was the head of development.
Yeah. He somehow like made Lazo just fall in love with him. And he was just like this magical imp. And his father and his parents were like, one of them was like a
His mother.
In the Nixon administration.
His mother was like in the Gerald Ford
oh, yeah.
administration.
They both were Nepo babies.
Yeah. I remember like Dave Willis telling me there was some party shortly after he had become who he was at Adult Swim. And she was like very nicely introducing herself to everybody and talking to everybody. And Dave was like, and then I realized she's like investigating for him. She's like, oh, this guy likes you. This guy's, watch out for this guy. She was like doing groundwork, like just like diplomatic, not nefarious, but you know, Dave was always like, I think she was just really trying to like scope out what was what and who was who and who are the people you should know, who are the people you should really get with, get behind, all that stuff. But he was also like, yeah, my thing with him is he got hired, and the first 3 things he did was hired his brother, hired his girlfriend, and greenlit his own show.
Yeah. And which was like a rap opera with a ton of rappers.
That Crooked Sip.
Yeah.
Because he was...
I would have killed...
He was super into it.
I would have killed to have been able to do something like that.
The design looked amazing.
Yeah, so I'm like this animator.
It wasn't funny.
I'm like this animator who raps and who's just dying for a break, even though he's already gotten a break. He's in the building. And this guy literally just like floats in, just takes control of everything and changes the look and changes the like look of everything and changes how everything's done, changes like what shows are getting greenlit and picked up, and he's making like a rap show that I don't get to be a part of, but he gets all these other rappers and
he's also like when he
seemed
left,
like kind of magical, like he's like a magical elf.
Yeah, well, he also then when he left, he started that ADHD nighttime block at Fox, which was precisely Adult Swim.
Yeah,
but even some guys who were doing stuff at Adult Swim did it over there, but they had all this money.
Yeah,
because Fox wanted to do it. They were in the Charlie Chaplin offices,
and it lasted just like a year.
It wasn't good.
No,
because it wasn't.
Well, he had said like he said Adult Swim's kind of toxic. I want to make something that's a little bit more positive. But I mean, honestly, I said this to Dave the other day, and like that toxicity is like what everybody loved.
Well, and also like he did those shows that you can't just plop into a play. And also because he wasn't like a lot of that stuff that was still doing, even when he was in charge of it, that still was stuff through Lazo.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just him. I remember at one point,
I think Lazo wanted a clone.
Well, I remember at one point, like Adult Swim, I think Lazo wanted somebody younger than him who was maybe hipper.
Yeah.
Who would fill in the gaps of things maybe that he was into or knew about.
Because Lazo wasn't a Nepo baby. He was like this nerdy guy into television who loved cartoons and he probably was like this awkward geek his whole life.
There was also I remember some weird thing like Adult Swim had done some weird shift of programming, but his people, either his brother or somebody, still worked at Adult Swim and were like, all of a sudden, the change was also at the ADHD thing. It was like he was getting insider trading from Adult Swim to stay on the same model. Yeah. I remember I think he hired me for some show they were doing. And then I said like, well, I'm union. And this was like, he was insultingly shocked that I was union, even though I was like, well, no, I mean, I live here and I can't do it. Even though everyone else was hiring and using, we're all union for whatever reason. He thought he could get me to do it. And then double disappointing was we were doing a project and Shannon from Titmouse called him about something and like, oh, Dana's working on it. And he was like, who is that? He was like, Dana Snyder. He was Master Shake. I don't know who you're talking about. Like, okay. 15 years? Don't remember? I'm not asking you what my address is. What my address is, but surely he's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. Everyone will be pleased to know there's he's always moving upward to bigger and better things. But there's some like history of comedy that was, I don't know, it was on CNN or something, but he's the person they talk to about the history of Adult Swim.
Yeah.
He's the representative for all those people. But I think half the people at Adult Swim, that's what they want. They don't want to talk themselves, but they also don't want anyone else to talk about them.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so
well, it was very much
fine.
like, you know, that one episode of Simpsons where Grimes shows up and he can't handle Homer. Like, how do you have this house? How do you not get fired? How is any of this possible? He's like questioning Simpsons reality.
Yeah, right.
And I'm very much like this guy who is like, I love Disney. I've drawn my whole life. I've worked so hard to get to this point where I'm in Cartoon Network. And this guy floats in. He's like, drawing is stupid. We have to make drawings look bad. And he was the guy like drawing like Space Ghost DVD covers and stuff, and drawing stuff for the interstitials, those little bumps in between shows. And he was like, the whole idea is that it looks bad. Everything should look bad. Everything looks too nice. Let's make it look bad. And I'm like, just like one eye's twitching. I'm like, I don't get it. What's going on? Why is this happening? But this is very much like what life is like, where you're like, life is supposed to go this one particular way. And then you're like, no, it actually is going this other way. Yeah. And this is what life is, kind of a shitstorm that never ends.
Yeah.
And it's not just like one success after another happens to you. Because I mean, I know both of you and I have had streaks where we're just like, wow, a lot of good shit's happening to me in a row. And it can be like that sometimes, but a lot of the times it's like, no, this bad thing's going to happen, and then this bad thing's going to have it's going to actually steamroll or snowball, and like become just too many catastrophes that you can even comprehend.
Yeah, I do like they changed the look of Adult Swim. Well, they never changed it. At first, they were
experimenting.
At first, they were trying to do the best thing they could with what they had.
Yeah,
and then I think what Nick added in a good way is, we need to make this all look more like outsider art rather than, we are not Disney. We are not Nickelodeon. We're not Cartoon Network.
No, I mean, it did look like what was kind of like what Lazo's mind was probably.
I mean, Squidbillies
mind looked like, because Lazo couldn't draw. Yeah.
Well, I always remember I pitched several things to Mike, and all of them got moved forward. But the overwhelming thing always was he loved my drawings, which were not good. They're not terrible. They weren't like.
Well, I think it's part. I mean, it's rooted in folk art. It's rooted in that folk art look. I mean, like, he didn't want things to look like Hanna-Barbera. He just was working with Hanna-Barbera because they owned it all, and it was free to use. It was free to use.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if we're going to do something else, let's make it look more like an art museum and less like an afternoon of kids' TV.
If it shows up, you're going to know there's something different about it, just even visually.
I mean, in many ways, Nick was like a necessary antidote to what had come before him, and he had to come into the Adult Swim and change it, because Adult Swim was headed towards this hipster place.
Yeah, I mean, and everything. I don't know everything he brought in, but a lot of the stuff he brought in, some people love it and some people hate it. Some people hated that, like, what was the one? Major Lazer was the one that they did that Chris Kelly worked on, but that was he was also the introduction of all these, for whatever level you want to say, but the introduction of all these celebrities.
Yeah.
Which some people say ruined it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it had a lot of good intentions, and what was missing, and why Aqua Teen lasted as long as it did, and why they have T-shirts up at Hot Topic, and why Aqua Teen still is something at all, is because it's rooted in classic comedy writing, and a lot of it's, I mean, I think a lot of it's because of you, because you have this training of theater, this theatrical training, and you have a comedic sense, you have a sense of humor, and not only do you bring improv into your reads, just like George did, and just like Andy did, but it was rooted in really old stuff, vaudeville stuff.
Well, also I feel like
old school rhythms of comedic rhythms that, like, they just were missing. I mean, the new solution was, let's just be weird, and weird was never funny, at least to me.
Yeah, no, I love Tim and Eric stuff.
Yeah,
but on the surface, It's just weird.
They were still funny.
But it's not.
They were funny and weird.
It's not,
but they were a transition from going from funny to funny/weird to just weird, not funny anymore.
Oh, see, I don't know if I ever saw not funny.
I don't think anything's funny though now.
Yeah, well, that's your transition.
But I think
the problem with Tim and Eric is it's people think that it's easy to duplicate, but there's elements that are missing from what other people. Well, the same thing with that ADHD. It seems like on paper it's easy to duplicate, but it's not because you're missing these other elements, like everybody at Adult Swim. Dito and Dave and Andy. All those guys are comedy nerds.
Yeah.
They're dyed in the wool. They love comedy.
They're all raised by Letterman.
They're all comedy nerds. They also have these other weird interests that put on top of it. They're not just like, well, we're just going to hire a bunch of writers to do this stuff.
No.
And also they'll try a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Fox, I think when they did that Fox thing, they're like, everything's got to be a hit, but it's got to seem like Adult Swim so we can put it up directly against it and have it go. And I mean, the only ones I remember was there was one that Dino did that was called High School USA, and it was sort of like a fucked up version of Archie comics. And then there was that one that in idea sounded fun. It's like all the scripts were written by a 5-year-old. It was like something cop.
Oh yeah, Axe Cop.
Axe Cop, right. Which is a fun idea for like one thing. But I
feel like you can't reinvent the wheel though. I feel like you needed.
Well, I think they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel. I think it was like they were trying
Let's
to
make a car with square
build
wheels.
a wheel, but they had never seen a wheel and they couldn't tell what a wheel was. They just had to.
Yeah, it was like an alien's idea of what television for America
it's like the
be.
three blind men all touching an elephant.
I want to know what your pitches were.
They were great.
What were they? Can you share?
One of them, I think we ended up selling to Disney.
Who's we?
That one was my friend Brian and I. Brian Studler, who used to work on the Blacklist. We went to college together. He's the one who used to work for the circus. He worked for Ringling Brothers for years before he went to college.
Is he the main Blacklist guy, or?
No, he worked on there. Him and Dave Thomas were buddies. From who also wrote on the Blacklist, oddly enough.
From Wendy's?
No, from Bob and Doug McKenzie.
What?
Yeah, he wrote on the Blacklist. Dave Thomas just wrote on the Blacklist, like from SCTV. Just a writer on there. Went to lunch with him once.
Wow.
We got to go to the executive dining room at Paramount Studios.
I would have fanboyed a little bit.
It was great.
We used to rent Strange Brew all the time.
I loved that movie.
Yeah, I do too.
Mel Blanc's best performance.
I think might have been my first exposure to Max von Sydow.
Had to be. I mean, it certainly was for me because it was on HBO all the time.
Just imagine me as a kid watching like The Seventh Seal or something.
Yeah. Family movie night. Seventh Seal.
So you're talking about your pitch?
Yeah. And we did one once that was
So you sold it to Disney. Was it in production? Did you make a pilot?
We went all the way to making a pilot. We wrote the pilot, and then they came back and said, "This is great." We kept going back and forth. Then they finally said, "This is great, but we're coming out with these new series of Mickey Mouse shorts." And they were like telling us secret stuff. They're like, "There's this new set of Mickey Mouse shorts that are coming out," which are the ones like that ride is based on.
No, we love them.
So when those first came out,
they're a big hit.
And they were like, and your pilot is exactly the plot of the very first Mickey Mouse short. So guess who we're booting? It's not Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And then finally, Eric, the guy who's like the head of animation, he was like, his quote was, "Let's just do them a favor and just stop." Because it kept like, we'd keep having a meeting, and then, Disney's like, moves at a glacial.
Sometimes you have to wrench that no out of them.
Yeah. And like, every time we went in to have a meeting, it would be like another minimum, like a month before we would go back again. I mean, one time was like, what color should he be? Well, originally it was yellow, but he shouldn't be yellow. And everybody's great over there. But everybody has it's just he can't be yellow because it's SpongeBob. SpongeBob is yellow, so he should be is there a different color? Like, yeah, it could be any color. But I mean, it was like amazing because when they first said okay, then immediately we got 4 different artists who they just sent us, and then we sent them the pitch packet, and then they came back to us with drawings of all the characters from 4 different artists. So like, this is this guy's take. This is this person's take. This is this person's. Which ones do you like? We're like, ooh, I like Bubble Guts from this guy, and I want this guy from this one. And I mean, it was awesome to a point.
Yeah.
Well, they said no.
Yeah.
Eric Coleman, that's the guy's name. Lovely man.
You're not revealing anything about it because you still want to do it?
Well, there's some things still happening. Even though it's a long time ago. Every once in a while, Brian got it all thing. He's like, you know what? I've been going through all this stuff. Because these are real solid.
Yeah.
So.
You know what I find really frustrating, I talked about it in a previous episode, is all the coincidences that happen as you start to pitch an idea or just having an idea.
Oh, yeah.
In this town.
Like how many other people have the same exact idea?
I've actually begun to think I think I'm psychic. Because I'll make something, I'll write something, and then I'll sit down and watch TV, and it'll be the plot, and like what I've written is just the plot of the one TV show I'm watching or something, and I'm like, this is annoying. And I, like I said repeatedly, I'm an atheist. I don't believe anything, but sometimes I feel like the universe allows one thing to be to come like this. 10 people have this idea. It's gonna come up, for air from somewhere.
Like how. Like Armageddon and Deep Impact came out within an Ants and A Bug's Life came out within months of each other. I think I always see that, but I say like no one has an original idea.
But this is something you want. You want to be a showrunner? I didn't know this about you. You want the money, but do you want the stress and the loss of time? And
I don't mind about the loss of time. I certainly don't want I don't want the stress. I don't want to write it.
You want to hire writers?
Yeah, I like to help write it, but I don't. I hate like writing by myself. I hate it. I have to write this thing currently, and it's just pulling teeth.
Yeah,
I do it, but like when I do it, I have a friend who has nothing to do with it come over, and we just start talking about it, and I'm much more collaborative.
Yeah.
I don't like doing things by myself.
That's very much so the Adult Swim way, or at least the early years of Adult Swim way of doing things is 2 guys in a room talking, one's typing.
Yeah. That to me is a much more desirable situation.
Yeah.
But like this thing now, they're like, you need to just you write this. I was like, oh God.
So you have like one idea that or do you have a couple ideas that you would like to do? A couple shows in your head?
Well, since everyone's listening, Mr. Spielberg, I've got several multi-million-dollar ideas waiting for the right investor.
Yeah.
Who runs a studio.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to toot your horn, but I've always felt like you had magic in a bottle that was, if you weren't a part of something, you were what's missing from whatever project. I just feel like, in those first days of Adult Swim, I just felt like this is that's comedy. That's funny. And you see a lot of weird stuff and a lot of strange choices, but only one person seemed to have a comedy background. And so I always felt like,
well, certainly I feel like a lot of people that did stuff on there were probably not as performance-based.
Yeah, most people were just insane.
Yeah,
and
like
George,
and
we were like recording them be insane.
Yeah, George is great, but George is not. He is a performer, but also sort of not like what he did before was lots of just like announcing, which is a form of performance.
Yeah, and the Space Ghost character is like, that's the character he is kind of performed in an announcer sort of way.
Yes. And also, like, George made that his own weirdness.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Space Ghost would have ever come off as weird. But I mean, while you also know George is like a great performer, is like when you watch, anytime he had to put the Space Ghost suit on and like interview people in real life, you can see all his influences of people I mean, like I think on the Aqua Teen movie, when he did the green carpet, like you just watch him interview, how he's interviewing people. I mean, it's hysterical. It's like anybody you'd see on, it's like what Letterman would do. Any of those guys.
Both him and Andy were like really funny.
Yeah. And he's excellent at it.
But all the like conditions had to be perfect.
George, I feel like
you have to put him in a costume and give him a microphone and
But George could do that
and have him interview friends, but not strangers.
Andy, you mean?
Both of them.
Oh, see, I feel like I've done.
You feel like George could have done crowd work?
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
we
it's
did
not
cons,
crowd work.
Which
That's
is kind of very
thing.
similar.
Like, I've done many panels with him, and like, it's not even like crowd work. It's like he just goes off on a weird tangent of like, it's Uncle Bippy's beef fingers for, like these fake commercials. Like he just sort of vomit out this total weirdness.
Yeah.
Like his drawings. Like he had those those like super micro detail. That's like what it would be. Just this weird Technicolor weirdo shit.
Do you feel, speaking of having ideas,
like we have to leave?
No, we are going to leave soon. But my final question to you is: do you feel like the clock is ticking at all with the ideas that you have in your head? Like, I better fucking pitch these things before I'm dead.
Well, I mean, that'd be preferable to them becoming multi-million-dollar shows after I'm dead.
You die right after it goes into production.
I read a very sad thing yesterday that Stan Laurel of Laurel and Hardy was very, very devastated by the death of Oliver Hardy.
I think I saw this too.
Yeah, Mike Broder sent this to me. But the thing that really stuck out was like almost up until he died, he still wrote Oliver and Hardy scripts. Which was like bonkers to me.
Well, that was his happy place.
That's it. And then I sent Mike Broder back. It's easy to look up. There was a show of like a TV movie of Oliver and Hardy. And I don't know who played, did I just say Oliver and Hardy? Laurel and Hardy. I don't know who played Stan Laurel. But Buddy Hackett played Oliver Hardy, and Buddy Hackett's death scene is spectacular. If you look up Buddy Hackett, Oliver Hardy death scene, and if that doesn't come up, just look up Buddy Hackett strawberry malted death.
There are people who Google whatever we say.
Yeah, no, I'm saying look this up. Everyone listening to this should look this up.
Well, I mean, when I started writing during COVID, and I just started writing a Muppet thing, and I was so happy while I was writing. I'd get up every morning, I'd write for an hour, then I'd do my hike, shower, sit down, write. I love the routine. I've never been able to really recreate it because there's no plague, but
right. I mean,
but I love when I have taken a couple classes since then and have written some other things, and I just love that feeling of when you kind of like come out of the stupor of writing. You're not in the world anymore. You're not in the script anymore. You've come back to your room where you're writing, and you're like, oh fuck. But like, it's kind of the closest I get to being fucked up these days. Is
writing.
When you're writing, you're just not there. You're not you, and I love that escapism.
I wish I keep thinking about writing more, even if it's just like daily journal, but because it's a muscle, and like getting in that, retraining the habit of that, and going on my long runs. And I don't mean poops.
Nobody thought poops.
Somebody out there thought poops.
He means poops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do the daily journal, and then I just found out like how angry I am, so I stopped doing it because I was just like really angry. And I don't have my writing thing that I do. But the weird thing about me is that like if I sit down to write a new song or something, it's like no time has passed whatsoever. I'm right back in the saddle, and it's just as good as it ever was. And I just did a rehearsal for a tour the other week, and it's like I knew every single one of my lyrics, and I hadn't rapped any of the songs in months or since August.
I feel like that's what Matt and Dave always talk about. Like, if they said tomorrow we need you to write an Aqua Teen script.
Yeah, it never goes away with me. I should write every day because I could always be better. My struggle is plotting out the plot. Like, I just love dialogue and you know, I'm not great at mapping out how things should go, and that TV has this really traditional math and format that is a challenge for me. But, I mean, I just love disappearing. It's the best. But that's interesting to know that you have these ideas, and I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you good luck.
Well, same to you.
Oh, who knows? Who knows what will happen?
Maybe we'll collaborate.
I think the audience would like it. I'm sure you're dealing with enough of me as is. I can't imagine you dealing with me more.
I'm a collaborative. I need collaboration.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of being Hemingway and locking yourself away in a room and
blowing your brains out.
That's what it leads to.
Well, one thing I will say about this podcast is that every time I listen to it, there's some point in the podcast where I am laughing really hard. And I love that we can achieve at some point, at least once a podcast, some big laugh. Really makes me happy.
Did we have one this one?
No. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dana. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Hey, it's MC. Once again, come see me on tour this summer. I'm touring right now. The summer of 2025 for all those of you who are in the future. Go to mcchris.com/pages/shows for tickets and information, where I'm going to be, how much it's going to cost. It's not going to cost a lot. It's a very inexpensive ticket, so you should buy it. So go buy it. Go see all my dates at mcchris.com/pages/shows, or click on the tour poster if you want a street team and get the word out. The link's right underneath the tour poster there at mcchris.com. I hope I see you out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have a lot of great songs about candy and Boba Fett's and pizza and ninjas. I have some jokes that maybe go on too long, probably about Andor and how it really should have been called Luthen. I'm going to have some throwback merch, some cool pins and hats, all kinds of shit you don't need but want. And that's a responsibility. Okay, thanks for listening. Thank you so much for all the support. Keep on listening to this podcast, and I hope I see you out there on tour. Go to mcchris.com/pages/shows for tickets and information. Okay, thanks. Bye.